Okay, so okay, so let's begin. When we talk about ArcGIS, we look at different and various architectures to describe what we offer as products. And we actually have at the center there, you can actually see the gateway that really facilitates this architecture to be alive and kicking. And you can actually see that among some of the products that we have the ArcGIS Pro software. That's what will be our focus today. And ArcGIS Pro is the desktop software that handles a lot of the desktop functionalities. We also have the portal for ArcGIS, which can be consumed on the cloud or can be consumed on your premises. So when it's consumed on the cloud, and we offer it as software as a service, we offer it to you as ArcGIS Online. And you can also have it in an internal server, or you can have it on a cloud server, but in your own premises, and you'll have that as ArcGIS Enterprise. Further to that, as developers, there are many of us who want to customize and extend some functionalities. So we also offer ArcGIS as a platform, where it's platform as a service, whereby you can be able to make some extensive customizations where need be, right? So that just sums up a little bit of what we do in terms of offering products, ArcGIS. And today's focus is on ArcGIS notebooks, right? So we're focusing on notebooks in ArcGIS Pro. But first, what is this notebooks? You know, when you want to talk about notebooks, what are you talking about? So, of course, notebooks are built on top of, Jupyter notebooks. And this is an open source web software. And when you're talking about Jupyter notebooks, you really have to focus on the elements that, it gives users, in that it allows you to create and share documents that contain live Python code, as well as visualization and narrative text, and Esri has always included, or rather has included Jupyter alongside ArcGIS Pro for some years now, right? And this is, when we talk about the ArcGIS API for Python, most of us who have used it, so it was developed to make the most of Jupyter's functionality. And that's how we now come down to, the notebooks in ArcGIS Pro. And so why should you use the notebooks in ArcGIS Pro? All right. So ArcGIS notebooks can be used for a lot of things. You can use ArcGIS notebooks for data cleaning, in transformation. You can use it for numerical simulation. You can use it for statistical modeling. You can use it for machine learning, administrative tasks, many other things. And you realize that in as much as ArcGIS works on a couple of things, you really want to sometimes turn data into insights, options, and decisions using ArcGIS Pro. Now, notebooks really helps you to do this a little bit faster, right? So you can be able to you can still be able to turn this data into insights very fast and make decisions. And this is because notebooks is a one-stop shop to streamline the analysis processes end to end. And you have cell by cell basis on notebooks, and we'll be seeing this as we look at our short demonstration to come. The cell by cell basis really helps you to get feedback immediately. So you have an error somewhere, you can easily get feedback, right? And of course, the Python libraries which are available in ArcGIS Pro, we'll just have an overview of that as well in our demonstration. You can actually access all the Python libraries directly in ArcGIS Pro. So this really helps you to do your work faster and more efficiently. And of course, when you talk about integration with ArcGIS to promote collaboration and sharing, the the notebooks in ArcGIS Pro is easily shareable among projects. And this really increases the performance as you work on your day-to-day. Of course, you can be able to automate data collection when using ArcGIS notebooks, and you can also easily adjust parameters on the fly. So you can set some variables, for instance, and assign some data to those variables, and you can come and change some parameters on the fly as you run your analysis here and there. So having said that, you get to really expand your workflow, and you realize that ArcGIS, as owned by Esri, and we have a lot of open source softwares as well. When you talk about the Python users, so for university students, lecturers, most of the things that you may be using, some of these softwares like some of these environments like Panda, Conda, Jupyter, and so on and so forth. And we have this other environment here where we have the ArcGIS API for Python, ArcPy, and we have some analytics tools. So this intermarry, and because they're now intermarried, you can actually get to utilize them in your desktop, in your apps, in your APIs, and so on and so forth. So for new users, for instance, notebooks will really come in handy because of things like the markdowns. Now, we'll look at the markdowns when you look at the demonstration, but this really helps you to get context on the code written. So let's say you're new to ArcGIS Python, right? So you're probably new to what's happening, and you get some scripts from online. You download someone else's work, and they've really described step by step. Let's say what Esri gives you as resources. You can actually go to Esri training and get a lot of resources on ArcGIS notebooks in ArcGIS Pro and notebooks in general using scripts, right? So you can actually get that as you run the code, there are explanations and build-ups to each function, right? So this will do A, B, C, D, and then there's a markdown for that, and then there's a code below it. You run that, you get a message. The message tells you if this has run well, if there's an error, and so on and so forth. All right, and also it's really useful to prototype and document your work. And experienced users who have used PyCharm. Maybe if we were in a room, I would have asked you to raise your hands, right? So that I can just have a view of which environments you people have used. If you've used Python before, what are some of the environments you've used? I know PyCharm for sure. So when you experience integrated development environments, right? IDEs like PyCharm and other Python software, you can enjoy the switch because of things like cells to enable running code independently. So when you're running cell by cell, then that's something that you may not be able to experience that in PyCharm, right? So it really comes in handy when you're doing some of those components. And how does ArcGIS support notebooks? When you look at this graphic on the slide, then you can actually see that the ArcGIS API for Python is a built-in component that now supports you when you're working on ArcGIS Pro, which is our desktop software, in a user-managed environment, when you're using ArcGIS Enterprise and ArcGIS Online. So we have the ArcGIS API for Python, and we have resources for ArcGIS API for Python that you can actually go and get as much information as possible on. And this really comes in handy when you're using now Jupyter technology like the Jupyter Notebook, right? And when you're using Python functions in ArcGIS, then you're able to run a lot of things. Let's jump into how Jupyter is fully integrated now into the ArcGIS software. And you realize that we have Jupyter for ArcGIS Online and Enterprise. We have ArcGIS Pro as well, inbuilt notebooks, right? So you may want to ask yourself, when should I use which? And another question that may come in, why don't I just use the online? Which one is greater than the other, right? Which one is better? Which one is less? Is this one the lesser version? And the answer is always, why don't you use the one that fits the purpose that you're running at a given time, and use them interchangeably? So let's say you're doing some functions you want to do some analysis, you can use ArcGIS Pro, run your queries, have your results showing, and you can also use your ArcGIS Enterprise and Online when you want to schedule tasks, right? You want to have something like transfer of data to happen seamlessly, maybe from MySQL database to your ArcGIS Online feature service, and so on and so forth. And you want this to happen every 24 hours or every hour or every 2 hours. Maybe you work for a university and we have some data sets that are being updated every month. You want a script to update that. You can use your ArcGIS Online or in ArcGIS Enterprise notebooks, and so on and so forth. So use these interchangeably, use them together in a way that they complement each other instead of having to choose between, the two. And to the day's topic where we're talking about we are having a focus on data science. We have to look at the building blocks of data science, and we can actually see that we have some components. This is a summary workflow, right? So we have data engineering, visualization and exploration, spatial analysis, machine learning and AI, big data analytics, model and scripting, sharing and collaboration. And this workflow, ArcGIS Pro has key parts of these components already built in, right? They're already built into ArcGIS Pro. And when you talk of data engineering, for instance, you can use pandas and rest of the Python ecosystem to manage data. But what is data engineering? How do you get your data ready for analysis? When you talk about data engineering, we have a special focus on getting the data ready for analysis. What's missing, what's wrong with the data, what can you add to your data, and what can you transform? Do you need to transform anything? What can you transform? Do you need to transform the coordinate systems, so that your data is ready? How do you get your data to be ready? And in ArcGIS notebooks, or rather in notebooks for ArcGIS Pro, you can actually use notebooks to take notes, on what you want to do. You can actually use the markdowns to say, step 1, I want to do ABC. Step 2, I want to do, and you can now later in come in, and in each step, you can add cells below the steps and add your code there. And after you're done, you can run all this code and know that your data is fully engineered, all right? And you remember that in the notebooks in ArcGIS Pro really enables you to also utilize the graphical user interface tools. Those are not going away, right? So you can actually run some geoprocessing tools on ArcGIS Pro at the same time, right? Simultaneously with the notebook. So you can actually have some things like the swipe tool. You don't need to re-engineer the swipe tool. You don't need to code that from scratch, right? That's already inbuilt. So you can use the graphical user interface to just, data engineer, to just observe your data, to visualize more, right? And you can also use the model builder, whereby you're using the model builder to, have these steps in place, and then you can also import it to notebooks. So data engineering is really well built into ArcGIS Pro. And when you talk about visualization and exploration, we have, a situation where ArcGIS Pro provides you with a platform where you can use the robust data visualization capabilities, in conjunction with your code. So when you're talking about visualization and exploration, what are the key pieces of how you can interpret the analysis? How do you understand it? So you have, for instance, a map on your ArcGIS Pro user interface. You've run some tools. You've had some symbologies to showcase the results of your tools, all right? What are some of the ways in which you can understand it further? And that's where visualization and exploration comes in. So you have a lot of tools already inbuilt for you to be able to do that, okay? And when you talk about spatial analysis and machine learning and AI, we'd love to combine this because spatial analysis really encompasses all this, and you can use the rich suite in ArcGIS Pro, right? We have a lot of spatial data science tools that you can utilize, for a lot of these components. And the main thing here, the most important thing here to note is, what question are you trying to answer? When you talk about spatial analysis, what question are you trying to answer? What problem are you trying to solve? That's the most important thing. The tools, the spatial analysis and machine learning, those are secondary. The most important thing is, what question do you have in mind? What problem do you have? Once you have that, then the rich suite of spatial data science tools come in handy. You have to figure that out first. So we have a lot of tools in place. We have spatial statistics tool. We have the network analyst. We have the business analyst. We have so many tools in this suite that really help you, to go out. And I'll even switch to big data analytics. You can access Python's ecosystem designs for the big data workflows. And when you look at the packages, we have a lot of packages that supports this, right? So when you're talking about stack data, that's one of the packages. We have pandas, right? It's available to you. You have Seaborn, which is like a statistical data visualization element, right? So you can use many of these available packages. You can actually use most of these libraries to do your own big data analytics, right? So you have these multiple data sets you want to handle. You can play around with that. And of course, modeling and scripting, is basically something you can actually say the notebooks is really best at, right? So it's like a scripting environment. It's this integrated development environment where you can do a lot of scripting. And remember, you can also use the model builder to do a lot of modeling, right? You don't always have to use the scripting like the Python window and so on, right? You can always use the model builder to just model the way your tools are. You visualize the arrangement of tools and so on and so forth. And you can also add these models to notebooks. You can add the models that you've created using the model builder to notebooks, right? And you can also use markups to describe what you're doing. And you can script while also adding various documentations to your code so that best practices are actually attained, right? So we have different organizations where you're required to describe what it is you're coding, describe the functions that you're performing. So this really helps you to do that. And of course, sharing and collaboration really intensifies the benefits of ArcGIS, intensifies the benefits of technology. How can you share it across the organizations? And notebooks make data science workflows explainable and replicable because you can share them as part of the projects, and you can save them as part of the projects and share the project. And that way, someone gets the notebooks, with it. You can share them as Python, and you can also share them as HTML. So if you can share them as Python files, someone can easily import them in other environments, like what you talked about, PyCharm, for instance. Someone can easily, import them. If you can share them as HTML, someone can easily open them on a browser and have an overview of what it is you've created, what it is you've visualized, and so on and so forth. And you can also utilize notebooks to annotate a package workflow so that someone goes step by step. You can create tasks, right? Geoprocessing history, you can summarize the geoprocessing history. And those geoprocessing histories that, as you run your tools, you can import them. You can import them directly into the notebooks and share them as well, right? You can actually share the notebooks packaged as themselves, and they can be run independently, and someone can get results and learn through the process. So most of us have learned through, looking at what other people have done, bringing it in, taking it all together, and running it on our own. So you can be able to do that as well. So let's have a small demonstration where we just look at, we look at the software in itself, and so I'll just open the ArcGIS Pro software. And one thing that you cannot, all right, is as you open your ArcGIS Pro software, you simply go to the Insert tab, right? So you ArcGIS Pro, for those of us who have already interacted with it, you really see that we have the ribbon interface, which really makes it easy for you to access the component. So you want to have the analysis tools, you just come to the analysis tab and so on and so forth. So when you come to the Insert tab, you can actually come here and get the notebook right here. So you can actually click new notebook, or you can add a notebook. Before we create a new notebook, one thing in ArcGIS Pro that I just want to show is if you click on project right here, a lot of options open up. And if you come to the package manager, then you get a lot of the packages available for you. And one of them we talked about, we have the ArcPy. This is the Esri ArcPy Python library available to you. We talked about some tools available for big data analysis. If you come here and type big data, right? Maybe let's say you're new to big data, right? So you come in and type big data. You can actually see a couple of things associated with big data, that some of these are packages that you can install in environment and run them as you go. Currently, I'm using ArcGIS Py 3, and you can always create copies of the same, right? You can always do as you wish in terms of package setups, installing packages, setting environment ready. Now, onto today's components. So you can come here and add a new notebook. So I can click on that. Just like that, a new notebook opens on ArcGIS Pro. Another thing that I can do is I can actually come and still under insert, right? I can come here, still under insert. I can come and add a notebook. If I come and add, I can add it directly from my PC. Now, another thing is, because you can add it from our PC, someone may have shared their code on GitHub, right? This is one of my colleagues called Trevor. I just got into his GitHub account and got some Python code shared there as notebooks. I can simply come here and download this code. I can download it as a zip, open it in my computer, and after doing that, I can come and easily access it here, right? And I can click on it, say okay, and it will be imported to my project. Alternatively, after you unzip that folder, you can create your project directly on that folder and have the project utilize the same folder. So maybe the code that has been shared requires some files and resources, they'll be zipped with that code and you can be able to utilize the same. So we've looked at how you can create a new notebook, and you've looked at how you can add a notebook from your computer, and how you can even consume some Python code from GitHub and other external resources, right? So onto our new notebook right here. You can actually simply come here, and one of the main important things if you're new to this is you can come to help. And help can actually give you a user interface tour. So if you click on user interface tour, you can actually see there, welcome to the notebook tour. You can use the left and right arrow keys to go backwards and forwards. If I click my right key, for instance, you can actually see, how it points. Click here to change the file name for this notebook. You can actually see where it's pointing. This is the notebook menu bar, and you're told what the menu bar has. You can actually see the notebook toolbar, and you can get the explanation there. You can see the mode indicator, and it depends with what is being shown. You can actually see here that the command mode, right now you're in command mode, and many key shortcuts are available. Right there, you pressing enter or clicking the input text area, you can now switch to edit mode. So you can start editing your code. So another thing maybe that you want to probably know is some keyboard shortcuts. You can come here and click on keyboard shortcuts to just know, and we'll maybe discuss one or two as we code, but you can go there and look at various keyboard shortcuts that you can utilize. Another very important thing is the kernel indicator. right? So when you're running a code and when you're not running a code, it's very important to know what the kernel indicator is showing. So you can actually see right now, the kernel indicator is idle, so it's empty, right? If anytime it will look like that, then this will show that the kernel indicator is busy, okay? So that means that the code is running or something is going on, and you can always interrupt. So we have notification areas there, and that concludes the simple tour. So take time, go through the same tour, and you'll be able to see a lot more components. But for today, we can just have a small demonstration. Let's maybe start by importing ArcGIS. So I'll just simply write import ArcGIS. We looked at this library. So again, I'll just shift enter to go to the next cell, but shift enter runs that cell that I have already done. And let's say you want to do an analysis, right? So you want to maybe do an analysis using the ArcGIS library. You can say ArcGIS.analysis, right? And two things here. I can actually click, I can add the dot, but then I can click tab to get some of the suggestions of some of the tools that I can utilize. You can see there buffer, clip, enrich layer, and so on and so forth. So for me, I can come and choose, I want to buffer, but then I don't know the format, right? I'm learning the script, right? So you can actually click shift tab to get more information, and you can get the signature of this tool. And if I come and click plus here, I can actually see that I'm getting a lot more information on the format. And if I come here and maybe copy this, right? If I just come and copy this and now paste it, all of a sudden I'm now a programmer, and I have, this code here where now I can understand this better, because I can come here and say the in features. All right, if I've been using ArcGIS Pro for a while, I can come and say the in features maybe is the Kenya major roads here. So I can just come and copy this name here and come here. Of course, using that, I can replace that. And I can say I want my buffer to be, Kenya major roads. I can just represent that in form of KMR, and then say I want it to be buffer, right? And in terms of buffer distance, I can actually come here and say I want it to be 1,000 meters, okay? And I can try and run this. Let's just try and run this and see what comes, right? So there's a message there that this has succeeded, and our KMR buffer is right here on ArcGIS Pro. Okay, so I've just used tab to get to my tool. I've used tab and shift tab to get more information on this tool, and I've copied the syntax and I've just added some details, and already I have some results. So you can always do more and more of this. And another thing, maybe you don't understand, maybe you already have that syntax in place, but you don't understand what the line side is. You don't understand what the dissolve option is. You don't understand what out feature class is. You can always come to that tool. Now that you've gotten the syntax, and say help, and you can actually add, let me just copy this, right? I don't need to really type it in fully. I can just copy that. And if I shift enter, you can actually get a lot of help on this tool, right? So all this, what is the in feature layer, and you can actually see an explanation. This is the input point line or polygon features that will be buffered and so on, right? So after that, you can actually be able to do so much more. And after your tools run and you come to a geoprocessing history, and you get the tools that have run, you can actually come here, you can right click it, and you can send to notebook, or you can drag and drop. And as you send it to notebook, you actually realize that it brings the tool already, and it brings the path. You can actually see in the output class, it even gives you the path where it's being saved. You can also drag and drop. You can actually drag and drop these tools here easily. So it's really easy to utilize ArcGIS for notebooks, right? So It just depends with what it is you want to do. But a lot of these components can really be easily replicated. Another thing that I wanted to mention is as a tip, right? So you can actually have someone adding all these codes into one cell. But as a tip, it's easier to separate these codes, because as you run each function, then it's easier for you to have, know from the message and the feedback that you get, know where there's an error, for instance, and so on and so forth. And another thing, this is a code cell. It's active. I can change this into a markdown. And remember, we talked about documentation and so on. I can come here and say, I can add that as a heading, and my heading can be, hello world, example. Okay, in notebooks. I can also add another thing here and say, ArcGIS Pro demo. Okay, and you see that if I shift enter to run that, you can actually see how my heading looks like. And you can even add some more explanation just directly and say, this will open a web map. Okay, change that to markdown and shift enter, and you can see how it appears. And so let's actually do what that instruction is saying. Let's get, and you can actually access all these resources online on the ArcGIS API for Python. A simple hello world type of example is, you can actually say from ArcGIS, from ArcGIS.map, from ArcGIS.gis, import GIS, all right? And I can come here and add that. Now, my variable, right? I can add my GIS is equals to GIS, okay? And I can now simply come here and, load my map, right? So my GIS.map, right? And if I do that as it runs, so that always depends with what it is you're doing. So an example of how probably this has run, I can come here and open a notebooks window here where I'd run some of these queries before, okay? And you can see down here that as I run that code, right, you can see that it loads this map here, okay? And this really shows you some of the extents in which you can play around with your code, right? So you can, after finishing some of these functionalities, you can simply come, to notebook here, and you can export this. You can export it to Python file, or you can export it to HTML file. Let me, for instance, try to export this, all right, into a HTML file. So if I come here and save this in my project, and maybe come to my folder here and maybe refresh that, then I can get that. My file will actually be stored there. So it's hanging a bit, but that really captures a lot of some of the things, some of the basic ways in which you can get ahead in terms of just understanding some of the things that come in handy with the new notebooks, or rather with the notebooks for ArcGIS Pro, right? The ArcGIS notebooks in ArcGIS Pro. So that was our session today, just showing you, introducing you to what it is that is the possibility. What are some of the possibilities? What are some of the possibilities of using the notebook in ArcGIS Pro, and so on and so forth. So some other tips maybe is the notebooks is not replacing the Python window. It's not really replacing the Python window. Rather, you can find ways in which, depending with what it is you're utilizing, and those of us who don't know the Python window comes down here. Under analysis, you can come and click Python window. So you can actually, this is the Python window down here. So for those of us who utilize the Python window already, this is not a replacement, rather something that complements. So you yourself may want to play around with when you utilize what, and just to maximize performance, go with the best tool for you. And of course, notebooks gives users a feel of documents where you can easily save it externally and interact with it later. Something that maybe may not be possible when you're utilizing the Python window, right? So the file that we saved as HTML, you can easily come here, refresh, and you'll be able to get it. So you can look for wherever you saved the file, and you'll always get the file. Then you can open it in your browser, and so on and so forth. Right. So let's go back to our presentation where we can actually look at some resources. So we have some resources here. For instance, we have a spatial data science MOOC that you want to engage in. You want to really attend this MOOC, learn a lot of spatial data science elements, in ArcGIS Pro, and we have a lot of things that you can learn here. It's freely available to everyone, and you get a certificate at the end of it, right? We have this session coming in once a year, so you want to register and be able to partake in the next one. So Victor will be able to share these links in the chat, so don't worry about that. And this presentation will also be shared. You can come to learnarcgis.com, and here you'll get a lot of resources. You can come here if you want to learn about notebooks. You can come here and tailor the search to what it is you want to learn, and you can get so much in terms of resources that you can utilize, right, to learn more on ArcGIS notebooks and many other things that ArcGIS has to offer, right, in terms of analysis and some of the things that we were talking about. As it loads, maybe we can click to load something else here. We have the spatial stats where you can actually come and also see more information on spatial statistics. You can get so many resources here. As that loads as well, we can actually come and load the last one here, where you can actually get started with notebooks in ArcGIS Pro. So all these links will be shared with you, so you can actually come here and get a step-by-step on how you can play around with some of these components, with a guide, right, with some examples here, right? So how you can utilize some syntaxes of Python, right? You can actually come here and utilize all these resources. Spatial statistics resources, this can come in handy for you as well. And you can come here and get videos, slides, and so on and so forth. And under tutorials here, learn.arcgis.com, you can come here, all products, look for whatever it is you're looking for, maybe ArcGIS notebooks, and you get a lot of results on ArcGIS notebooks. You can come here under topics, you can choose education, and it filters. With every search, you get a filter of some available resources, for that filter, and you can come here and get data visualization and so on, and you can come here and get so much more. You want to teach your students, maybe you want to teach your colleagues, you can come here, teach with ArcGIS notebook, and you can get that series and so on and so forth. All right, so this is really what we had prepared for you today. And, remember, this is us introducing you to this component, but there's so much coming in future. We have series of webinars that will come in to show you more of what is being done, in ArcGIS Pro, in ArcGIS Online, in ArcGIS Enterprise using the notebooks. For data science, we'll run some things here together. We'll have some case studies coming in. And remember, you can always reach out to us. You can always reach out to us. And, Ronald is going to share a survey that you're going to fill and tell us what you've learned from this, first of all, and what are some of the things you want us to look at in the next session. Now that we are sure we are going to have a next session, what is it that maybe from this session you want us to look at in the next session? So be sure to share your thoughts kindly, and make sure that as you leave this session today, you give us your feedback. Maybe you have a comment on something we could have done better. Please feel free, and allow me to end today's session there. But first, before we leave, we'll welcome any questions. So I turn this back to Victor, who can then allow for questions to be asked, and you can raise your hand or you can type in the chat, and I'll be able to answer